Over the last few years, I figured out 7 easy habits that help me get about 7.5 hours of really great sleep night after night, at least 95% of the time anyway. In the hopes that they can help you too, I'm going to share what those 7 habits are and why I believe they're so effective. I think you're going to find a few of these particularly interesting. They're anything but mainstream, but wow, do they work well. Hi there, I'm Stacy. Welcome to my bedroom. That's a weird thing to say, I know, but this is a video about sleep after all, isn't it? So here's the deal. Up until a few years ago, my sleep routine was not great. I had a really inconsistent bedtime. I ate snacks way too late at night. I watched the bright screens right until it was time to go to bed. Just the things that people do a lot of the time. And I did a lot of other non-helpful things too. But then I learned a lot and I changed everything gradually, of course. And, things just got a whole lot better for me. But one thing I have learned, it's really helpful to know how to support our body's own natural signals and rhythms and that sort of thing. And actually, that's what all these habits are based on. They directly support either the circadian rhythm, which of course is the body's master clock and is in charge of that whole sleep-wake cycle situation, or they support the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's in charge of the body's like rest and digest functionality. So supporting both those things is really important, so I've learned, when it comes to getting really good sleep night after night. The last thing I'll say before jumping in is that while I do think taking on a few of these habits can make a big difference and certainly be helpful, I took them on gradually. For me, definitely the stacking of all 7 of them has just made things so good for me. So, the more you can do, the better. But you have to start somewhere, right? 5 of these are completely free in that you can just do them with whatever you already have. And then 2 of them do utilize what I would consider biohacking products that I just swear by, basically, that I've been using for a few years, both of them. As usual, any of the resources that I happen to mention throughout will be linked for you down below the video in case you want to check them out. All right, habit number 1 is going to sound a little counterintuitive because it's something I actually do in the morning, but it is part of my sleep routine. So what I do is every morning after I get up and I go downstairs and I make my coffee, I bundle up if it's cold and I go outside for about at least 10 minutes, oftentimes closer to 15 minutes. And I love it. It's actually a lovely way to wake up every day. It's incredibly addictive. Basically what it's doing, the reason for this is when you go outside, you do have to do this without your glasses or contact lenses in because they do block part of the light signal, but what you're doing is you're going out into full spectrum natural light. And that light has all of the information in it, basically, that tells your brain when it's morning. And that's signaling your circadian rhythm is what that's doing. It's a direct effect on your circadian rhythm. So if your body knows it's morning right now, then it knows that in about 12 hours it's going to be evening, right? And so it knows in the morning it knows what hormones to fire up. So it's sending the signals, go ahead and fire up a little bit of cortisol to help her wake up and fire up some serotonin and all of the morning hormones and chemicals that are supposed to be firing off. And then it knows in about 12 hours it's going to downregulate some of those and upregulate the sleep hormones, right? Like melatonin and so on. Down-regulating cortisol and all of that. So it's super important to help your brain understand what time it actually is, and the only way to do that is through light signals. And so the full spectrum natural light, it's how we evolved as humans. That's what tells our brain what time it is. Just like when we go out at sunset and gaze towards the sunset, same thing. It's sending our brain that information that says, oh, it's nighttime, right? So anyways, our indoor lighting, unfortunately, is very different than full spectrum natural light. It's more, most of the time, like the LED bulbs and all of that, it's telling our brain that it's like high noon or thereabouts. So that's, anyway, helping our circadian rhythm understand what time it is, like that's a big deal. So that's why I do that. And the other thing with that is I did mention you want to take your glasses and your contacts off or not have those on when you go out. And that's because part of the light spectrum is UV light. And UV light is our glasses and our contacts and things are they're treated so that they basically repel UV light. And UV light's really, I know it has a bad rap, but it's actually very important. I've learned it's very important to our biology. It's very important that we get a certain amount of UV light. However, as you've probably heard, like getting it in the morning and in the late afternoon is when you want to get it, because then it's not super harsh, right? It's a mild UV light. Anyways, so you can't get that through, it can't enter your eyes if you're wearing glasses with UV protection and contacts. And another thing to know about this is if I can't go outside for some reason, what I will do is I will just open a window in my house. Even if there's a screen on it, that's okay. But opening the window, again, the UV part of the light spectrum can't come through the window because our home windows are treated for UV as well. So I open the window and I just look out. I just get right in front of the window and I'll gaze out the window for 10 or 15 minutes. So you can do it that way too. Not everybody has a setup where they can just walk right outside easily, right, and do this. So just open a window and sit by the window. It's a nice way to wake up. Okay, habit number 2 is I wear these. I know they're weird. They're weird looking, aren't they? But you know what? They are incredibly effective, and they are called blue light blocking glasses. It usually takes, I don't know, oftentimes only 30 minutes of wearing them. Sometimes I'll wear them for closer to an hour. And what they do is they block out 100% of the light signaling that basically squashes melatonin production. So there's a lot of blue and green light that is problematic. It's in our artificial lighting in our homes and the screens that we're looking at. And it's problematic when it comes to melatonin production. So what those do is basically they don't allow any of those light frequencies to enter the eye. And so as I wear those, they just make me sleepy because my body starts making, my brain starts making melatonin. They do make your TV or your screen look a little strange. But you know what? It's worth it for a good night's sleep, right? And I'm going to take just a second to talk about these because the thing is if this is something you want to try, it's really important to understand that quality matters for something like this. There are a bazillion blue light blocking glasses out there from, $20 on up to several $100s. And the one thing I want to make sure somebody doesn't do that really is interested in this is that they buy maybe a $20 pair and they're just not made very well. And then, they don't work well. And then that person thinks, no, well, those just don't work. They don't work for me. When I know I can vouch for the fact that they work. But the thing is getting a high quality brand. So the brand that I've used for several years now and is excellent is called Bond Charge. I'll link to it down below. This particular brand, the glasses are made in optical labs. They're very high quality. The lenses are extremely clear and well made. They're super durable. They are actually certified as medical devices in the US and Canada. I was actually surprised to find that out. But anyways, it's just different, right? It's different than getting some glasses that are made on the same factory floor as some plastic toothbrushes or something. And they're just thrown together and they put a film over the glass and they call it a day. And it's just so important that the exact right spectrums of light are being fully blocked out, because otherwise they're just not going to work. And so that is what they make a point to do. The other thing is that they offer prescription lenses. So you can get non-prescription or you can get prescription. And with prescription, you can get either single lens or progressives, minor progressives, as a matter of fact. I've had them for several years, like 4 years. My prescription hasn't changed much, which is good. But they are durable. They're so durable and they're just, I don't know. I can't say enough good things about them. So here's what I would say though, is because they are, they're a little pricey. You get what you pay for, right? But they do have a great option to try if you're just wanting to test this whole thing out, right? You don't want to spend money on a full set of glasses, but you just want to test it out. So, they do have several different styles and different frames and that sort of stuff for the prescription and non-prescription, but they also have these clip-on deals. And yes, they are even more ridiculous looking. They are, but you know what? They work just as well. And you can just get them. I think they're like $40 US right now. And just clip them on your regular glasses. I guess if you don't wear regular glasses, that's not an option. But anyways, it's a really affordable way to like, just if you're like, I don't know if those are going to work, you know what I mean? I'm a very pragmatic person, so I get this. So, just you order the clip-ons, you try them out for a while. Once you see that they do work, and they do, then it's more comfortable, right? Maybe spending a little more money to get the actual glasses made for you. So I just wanted to point that out for you. Okay, habit number 3 is that about 2 hours before bedtime, at least, I go around the house and I dim down all the lights. I turn off most of the overhead lights and just turn on lamps. And I have a lot of salt lamps, and I love my salt lamps and little salt lamp night lights and all that stuff. So I go around and I change the lighting in the house pretty drastically. And the reason I do this is because, of course, light signaling is the biggest thing that impacts my circadian rhythm, right? And so I want to make sure my brain is receiving those signals that it's nighttime. And so, start firing up the melatonin and so on, and doing your thing so that I can get ready to get a good night's sleep. And along those lines, one thing I'd recommend doing if you haven't already done it is make sure, at least in the evening, to turn your phone onto night mode, because that cuts out a whole lot of the blue light. Of course, blue light it doesn't look blue, right? It's that really bright white light. Why they call it blue light is so confusing. That's so like the LEDs and our screens on our computers and our TVs and just our LED lights around the house, how they have a lot of bright whiteness to them. That's actually the blue light, and that is really disruptive to our circadian rhythms. So especially when it's evening, right? When we're supposed to be getting light signals that it's nighttime, and those are sending signals that it's like high noon, the middle of the afternoon. So anyway, it's just really important to get rid of those in as many ways possible leading up to bedtime. Okay, habit number 4 is that I sleep on a grounding mattress cover. And this is something that I will not be without. Even I travel with it. I have a smaller version that I travel with, but in fact, I recently went to my mom's house, and every time I go visit her, I take it with me. I take it with me when I travel almost everywhere. And she was so funny because every time I go there, she has the guest bed all made up nice for me. And the first thing I do when I go in and I kind of that first night prep to go to bed is I rip back all the bedding, put my mattress cover on there. It just covers part of it, the one I take to travel. It's called a sleep mat. But anyways, I put that on there, and then I put put the fitted sheet over the top of that and put it all back together. And she saw me doing that. So this last time that I went, she says that when I walk in the door, she's like, now I didn't make that guest bed for you, because every time I make it, you just tear it apart anyway, so you can put that mat thing of yours down. So I just figured I'd let you go ahead and make your own bed. And I was like, well, there you go. That's smart. So the way it works is a little bit sciencey. It's basically the same as earthing. And earthing is when you go outside, you take off your shoes and you're putting your bare feet onto the surface of the earth. So either grass or dirt or sand or stone, or you're swimming in a natural body of water like the ocean or a lake, that's earthing. And what's happening there is the body absorbs the free electrons from the earth's surfaces. And so that basically helps to restore the body's natural electrical state, which is really important, right? Again, we as humans evolved, of course, being barefooted and whatnot on the surface of the earth. And so it's really important for our biology to have that connection on a regular basis. It's very good for us. And the way the grounding products work, of course, is that you're plugging them into your grounded outlet in your home. And then that grounded outlet is grounded to the Earth's surface. So that is how the free electrons make their way, to this product and then transfer to the body. So then a few things happen that promote deeper sleep. Basically, it's calming down the central nervous system and helping it shift from that more sympathetic, like fight or flight mode of operation over to the parasympathetic side of more rest and digest functionality. And so that's really important. But then also too, it's sending signals that help the circadian rhythm function better. It's also found to lower inflammation. And of course, then when your body's hurting less, you sleep better, right? So that usually has a direct effect on your sleep. And I have found that it has definitely helped me over the years. Again, I've been using these for a handful of years now. And it has definitely helped with my aches and pains, to minimize them a lot over time. And it doesn't, the more you do, the more you sleep on these things, you feel better and better. I guess it's, you don't use it once and then everything's perfect. It's not that kind of a thing, but you can start to notice some differences quite quickly though. So anyways, just to clear up, when you're outside, doing bare feet on the ground, that sort of thing, that's referred to as earthing, and you are being grounded to the earth's surface when you're doing that. When you're inside using these products that are considered grounding products, that's referred to generally as grounding. So just to clear that up. And like with the glasses, if this is something you're interested in looking into, there again are several companies out there making these things. The company whose products I use is called Earthing, and I've used them for years and they're excellent. They were the original company actually that basically brought these products to market, at least in the US, and I think internationally. They are very high quality. They care about the right things, which is why I trust them. They're fantastic. And I know too, like with the glasses and the mattress pad and these things, if these are things you've never heard of before, they might sound a bit wacky and a little bit out there. And I totally get that. What I would encourage you to do, if you're interested, if you really are, want to get some better sleep and these things at all interest you, I would just Google around, go into ChatGPT, go into Google. Don't take my word for these these things. You don't have to take my word for it, but just do the research and see about these kinds of things and what they say and what science is out there that has any proof that they work and that sort of thing. That's what I would encourage you to do. There is earthinginstitute.net. That is a website that has been curated by a group of folks who are very, very serious about getting the information about earthing out, and they have the scientific studies linked right there, and there's just a lot of great information. So if you just want to understand the whole earthing/grounding thing better, that's a great place to start. Also, I will link to below the video here. If you like documentaries, there was a great documentary done called Earthing something. It's a long title. Anyways, and it's a free documentary here on YouTube, and I will link to it down below. So if you're like, your curiosity is piqued at all, go watch that documentary. You will learn a ton, and it's just it's quite fascinating. It's quite fascinating. All right, I got 3 more habits to go, but before I jump into those, if you've been finding this information valuable at all, it would mean so much if you hit that like button. And of course, if you want to see more content about holistic self-care for women over 50, be sure to subscribe. So habit number 5 is that leading up to bedtime, at least like an hour before, if not longer, the only type of content I watch on TV or on my phone or whatever is basically like feel-good content. And the reason I do that is because that is very supportive of my parasympathetic nervous system. If you watch something intense or crazy or something that makes you mad or sad or whatever, leading up to trying to get your body prepped to go to sleep, it's ramping up the more fight-flight side of your nervous system, and that is not what you want to do if you're going to try to get ready for bed. So what I do is I basically watch, sitcoms or YouTube stuff that I like to watch or whatever, something that I enjoy. It makes me feel happy, that makes me feel good, or at the very least, it's just calming and relaxing. And it definitely makes a difference for me. And another tip I just learned recently, I have not tried this yet, but I can see where this would have a big impact, is apparently, so you know how sometimes, maybe this is you, there's this thing where somehow you go to bed at the right time and you sleep really good up until like 3 or 4 a.m. And for whatever reason, you're constantly waking up at like 3 or 4 a.m. and then you lay there for a while and then hopefully finally fall back asleep. Apparently, one thing you can do that's supposed to really help with that, and again, I've not tried this yet, but this is something I recently heard, so I thought I'd share it, is that as soon as you climb into bed, do some sort of mindfulness exercise, like box breathing is a good one, or some other, like maybe you have a mindfulness app like Headspace or the Calm app or something. And so, yeah, apparently if you do that for whatever, 5-10 minutes before you go right to sleep, it will calm your nervous system down, and I guess it really helps. So habit number 6 is that I stop eating at least 2 hours before I go to bed. And I try to make it closer to 3, but sometimes with, getting off work and then I go work out and then I come home and I make dinner and then I get sidetracked by something, and you know how it goes. So, so it's usually closer to 2 hours. Basically, there's a few reasons for that. Number one, the most important reason that I do that is because what I've learned is that when you eat stuff, or I imagine when you drink much too, but certainly when you eat and you have to then digest food, that again is sending a signal to the circadian rhythm that you don't want to send when you're trying to go to bed sometime soon. It's even though the circadian rhythm is primarily controlled by light, it's also controlled by when we eat. So it makes sense. The body's thinking, well, you're eating something. I guess it's not time to go to sleep, right? So it's going to downregulate melatonin production and whatever else it does. And so now that's going to affect the way you sleep. So anyway, that's why that's the main reason I do it. But also, I don't know about you, I have noticed if I eat too late or too close to bedtime, when I wake up in the morning, I don't feel great. I feel like, I don't know, my food didn't digest all the way or what happened, but it doesn't feel great. So that's another reason. And I do restrict liquids because I that last hour especially, because if I can avoid getting up to go pee in the middle of the night, I'm going to do that. It doesn't always work. But the good thing is with all these other things, all these other habits that I practice, even if I do have to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, when I climb back into bed, I generally fall right back asleep. Habit number 7 is that I make my room very, very dark at night. Very dark. I do not play when it comes to this one. It's really, really important to do this. And in fact, I will tell you a quick little story. Recently, it was earlier this year, I went on a cruise with a friend of mine, and her and I shared a cabin. And I was laying there that first night, and we turned off all the lights, and she was asleep like right away. And I was laying there, and I thought, oh my God, it's so bright in this room, in this cabin. What is happening? And then I look around and I noticed the little mini fridge has like a indicator light or whatever on it. That thing was bright. Then we had a little fan, and that had a bright light on it. And that was lighting up one side of the room. And then from the hallway, there was something on the wall that was really bright. I'm just like, what is going on? Now, I had brought a sleep mask. I always travel with a sleep mask, but I don't know about you. I don't like wearing them all night. And so I just thought, let me just get up real quick and see if I can't fix this. So within a few minutes, I propped a pillow up against the mini fridge, and I put something in front of the light on the little fan, and I went and hung something over the thing in the hallway. And I come back and I get in the bed. I'm like, well, that's better. Like it was, 90% darker, still not total dark, but pretty close. Anyway, so I don't play around with that one. That's an important one. And the reason that's important is because, believe it or not, when our eyes are closed, light can still make its way through our eyelids into our retinas, and then signaling our brain that there's light. So that unfortunately disrupts melatonin production throughout the night. And so that's, we want to avoid that at all costs, right? And it makes sense because if you're in a bright room or you're outside and the light is bright and you close your eyes, you can see light, right? It's not like it's total darkness. And then if you go like this all of a sudden, of course, it's like super dark. So clearly light goes right through our eyelids. I'm sure some people have thicker eyelids than others. I don't know. But that is a problem. So that's why it matters, and that's why I do it. So some easy ways I found to manage that is I have blackout curtains in the bedroom, and then of course my husband has, I don't know why he has this, he uses his phone for his alarm, but he has an alarm clock, and with those digital deals, and his didn't get very dim, so I had to buy a little thing that you can buy to go over the surface of, front of that to dim that down quite a bit. And then of course, I don't really have any other indicator lights, how like TVs have little lights and things like that, but if those are around, you can just put like a little tiny piece of black duct tape over them or something. Of course, sleep masks can be very helpful. If you have things that you can't control, that you can't change, then of course a sleep mask is the answer, isn't it? I have one, let me see. I have it right here actually. So I use this one from Buc-ee's. I hate a sleep mask that rubs against my eyelashes. That one just doesn't work for me. So this one has they pop out and they look kind of goofy, but they don't hit my eyelashes. So anyways, that's the one I like. But yeah, if you have one of those and it really does seal around where your eyes are, because I've had several that I could still see lots of light coming in the sides or whatever. They were flat or I don't know, they didn't work well. So find one that works well and always have that with you, right? Because that you just never know. And that's certainly easier than changing things in a room. And I will say one other thing about that. Making sure you have night lights that don't have any blue light in them is really important. And so you can buy the ones that say like no blue light or whatever, or blue light free or something like that. So I would look for that. But also I use like little salt lamp night lights, and they're so soft. They're beautiful, but they're just so soft, you know, that you can just, if you have to flip something on, and you flip something on like that, and even one step further than that, you can get those little like salt lamp night lights, and you can take the salt part off. the rock part, I don't know what you call it, and then you got that little 15-watt bulb in there, and you can buy actually little red, I think they're 15-watt as well, bulbs that fit inside of there. So you can put a red bulb in there, and then it's just red light, strictly red light, has no blue light, no green light. Like that is honestly the best thing to expose your eyes to in the middle of the night, because it just doesn't do anything to disrupt your melatonin production. So you put the little red bulb in, you put the thing back on, and now your salt lamp looks different. It's not as pretty, but it's, you know, I mean, if it's a matter of being able to go right back to sleep, like that's, I think it's worth it, right? So there you go. That is the 7 habits that I practice every day to get really good sleep almost every night. They've worked really great for me, and I hope that they will work well for you too. And if you have a good tip, please do share it. Drop it down in the comments, you know, and perhaps it can help somebody else. Now, if you found that info about the grounding mattress cover interesting, then you might just enjoy this video too, because that's an unboxing that I did 4 or 5 years ago when I bought all my grounding products from Earthing, and that video's done well. I think people do find it really helpful. So anyway, check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next video. Sweet dreams.